mukaenda kumapepa nawo inyaya dzecorruption dzekutaura nezvadzo, mukabva ipapo mukaenda mumamedia inyaya dzecorruption dzekutaura nezvadzo, but munhu watinotarisira sababa akasano for now munhu akasano kubata chigaro chomutungamiriri ndiye Masoni Mnangagwa.
I'm not happy with the pace at which corruption cases are being dealt with currently. As a result of that, I'm creating an anti-corruption unity of prosecutors in the office of the president, directly responsible to me. I want this being dealt now.
Now this is the free talk.
Corruption has become so endemic in Zimbabwe. It is now so easy to survive on corruption, even at the lower levels of society, than not to. Now, just over the past few weeks, the Auditor General released an audit report. And in that report are serious allegations of corruption or pointers to corruption, which appears to be seriously embedded in government operations, in ministries, lack of accountability, vehicles being bought or purchased and not being delivered. One of these acts of corruption is crystallized in what we have seen as the presidential gold scheme fraud, which happened in 2021. Now, a group of young people who believe that these acts of corruption by government are affecting their ability to access education, better future, and opportunities in their motherland, are taking a stand. First, they wrote a letter to the AG's office demanding that he releases the audit report, which was long overdue. And before the days that they stated in their letter expired, the audit report was released. And oh my, oh God, oh my, the things that have been unearthed in that audit report are just merely shocking. Now, on this, the Free Talk, in partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom, we sit down with those young people and we ask them the so what? Why should you care? Now, join me after this break as I deal with the issues around money, people, government, taxpayers' money. On this, the Free Talk with me, your host as usual, Dara B. Welcome back to this, the Free Talk in partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom, wherein I'm joined by Munashe Masiwa, a data scientist from the University of Zimbabwe. I'm also joined by Tatenda Kutsirai, a UZ psychology student and also an accountability advocate, and Madame Passionate Fuza, a UZ political student and diploma student. She's also a human rights defender. Now, this is the core team. It's just not them, but this is part of the core team that wrote the letter to the Attorney General's, to the Auditor General's office, demanding that the audit report be released. Now, firstly, Munashe, tell me, what was the thinking behind you crafting that letter and sending it to the Auditor General?
Okay, thank you very much, Dara, and thank you for the viewers who are watching the Free Talk. So as young people, we sat down and said, no, we should set an agenda to fight corruption, not to react to it. And our first point of entry was to write to the Auditor General for the release of the 2023 Auditor General report, both the local council, both the state-owned enterprises in Para State House and the appropriation accounts, which deals with the ministries and so forth. So this was our point of entry, to say no. In the journey of accountability, in the journey of holding the government to account, we should know how the funds are being used. We should know how the government is operating as far as the confines of the law are concerned, as far as the public money is concerned, because this money that they use, it's taxpayers' money. It comes from you, Dad. It comes from me. It comes from Passionate. It comes from Kutsela. It comes from everyone who is a citizen of Zimbabwe, and even those in diaspora, because they, remittances and so forth, they pay tax through that. So we said, no, as young people, let us make sure that we start by demanding accountability. We start by writing to the Auditor General for the release of that lead. But this is just a stepping stone towards something which is big. That is holding the government to account.
Yeah. So initially, when we invited you, we wanted to talk about what you were going to do if these audits were not released on time and stuff like that. But they have then been released. Kutsirai. Yes. Now let's talk about after the release. Now they've been released. You're fine. You're happy.
I'm not happy. First of all, I was already disappointed that the Auditor General's office couldn't meet its time, and which is required by the mandate of its office to meet the deadline of 30th of June. So now that it is released, it's also something which then induced pain, which then induced a lot of hard feelings towards the findings, which are in fact in the report. We see that there's rampant corruption in every corridor of every government department and parastatal. So to say that I'm happy, I will be lying.
Now let's talk about your unhappiness and what really stimulates your unhappiness. What are the issues in the audit report, if you have read it? Because I'm assuming that since you were so interested in it, you have read it.
Yeah.
What is in the report that makes you unhappy?
The whole document makes me unhappy, but as a young person, we actually started to say, no, we are young people, so let's start to hold the Ministry of Youth itself to account. And then we see that the Ministry of Youth is looted and misappropriated funds which were meant to buy cars. So we see that the Ministry of Youth, which is led by Minister Honorable Machakaire, procured 17 cars, and of the 17 motor vehicles, only 7 were delivered by the end of the compilation of the report. And of the 7, 4 of them are not in the name of the ministry. We don't know whose name are they in. So it's something which boggles the mind. It's something which is troubling to say why the Ministry of Youth doesn't care about the future of its young people in this country.
But how is your youth guaranteed by the cars? I mean, how is it affected that the ministry didn't receive those cars? How are you affected?
Okay, let's say the ministry itself is on operations and runnings, the errands they are supposed to do to make sure that it meets its mandate in making sure that it actually travels and meet the youth, the young people around the country in different parts of Zimbabwe. But when we actually now we have the shortages in those funds, it actually means that potential young people which were meant to be visited or to be interacted with, it's now a dream which has been delayed. And also that the fact that the cars were bought and not delivered, the fact that those funds were misappropriated is something which is disheartening.
Amazing. Now, personally, I want to come to you and say and try and appreciate what you looked at in the report and that affected you, or probably you're happy with the report.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. As my colleagues have said, the report itself, it's very disheartening. To begin with, before I come to the exact figures or what exactly is in the report, I like the question you asked, Tatiana, like how are the Zimbabweans in general affected by the missing cars? To begin with, that same ministry or the various ministries, parastatals and state enterprises, they are part of the government. And what is the government is the government for the people. I'll give you an example. Let's say I have donated $1 to buy a kid chips. Even if I wasn't the one to eat those chips, but the money was supposed to go for the chips to that kid, isn't it? It is. So the fact that all those monies are missing, the fact that all the accounts, they are misappropriated. Number one, it's taxpayers' money. Number two, the ministry, it serves the people. So what then happens if all those accounts are missing? As the general citizens, basically we are saying that those money that is misappropriated, it was the money that was supposed to be used in the interest of the people and the development of the country at large. So I would say I am not happy. There are many instances whereby we see money was misappropriated. We can talk under the Ministry of Home Affairs. We see that they say that the user died together with the passwords of the account. Can you imagine a whole ministry like that having one user instead of having layers of people working for the same ministry for accountability purposes? It's so disheartening to say, how can the whole country under such a very big ministry have one person with the passwords? And we have some other instances whereby huge amounts of money, billions of money was being recorded in an Excel sheet without passwords or security purposes. So that alone, it speaks to a lot of reasons where we are affected as Zimbabweans and how unserious the ministries can be at times in the terms of reaching to its mandate and saving Zimbabwe at large.
Are you confident that this government is serving your interest as a Zimbabwean after reading this audit report?
I am not confident, because if I was going to rate maybe at a scale to 10 on how the Zimbabwean funds are being handled, I would say maybe it's below the scale of 5, because almost every ministry, it has misappropriations of funds, almost all of them. And if you look at the management responses of those ministries, it's so disheartening, and it speaks to a lot of reasons to why they are doing so. And you see that some of the accounts, they're even recurring from 2019, 2020, 2021. Now we are in 2024. There is nothing that is to be done to allude to that. And if you look at the period of those years whereby the Auditor General is alluding to say that these funds also even recurred from 2021, we are now in 2024. Nothing much has been done. So I would say it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. Now, Moya, let's talk about what really makes you unhappy in this report first, before we proceed. What are the issues that you look at and think, this doesn't make me happy, this makes me happy?
Okay, thank you very much. And as a young person, like what he said, our first point of entry as far as all this is concerned is the issue of the Ministry of Youth. We are saying that, no, you purchased from Amtech 17 Nissan motor vehicles. Only 7 delivered, 10 were looted. You don't know how, because they are yet delivered. And the 7 that were delivered, 4 are not in the name of the ministry. And that point is the first point of entry for us to say, no, as young people, you are the future. As the Minister of Youth, you are the future of the country. If you are the Minister of Youth, we by all means expect you to run the ministry in the confines of the law. You should be held accountable, because we are saying as young people, these old madalas, they're doing this and that. Corruption is now the order of the day. We want to remove corruption as young people. But that same ministry, the underpinnings of it are written all over with corruption. But that is not the only minister. We talk of the Minister of Information with the permanent secretary, Nick Mangwana. You realize that they purchased from Solution Motors 7 vehicles. They were not delivered, all of them, but money was paid. And they say that Solution Motors closed and so forth, but they know the owner of the Solution Motors. So we want them to get to the bottom of the issue and say to the citizens what exactly happened. Where is the money? Because that money is not their money. They are governing at the mercy of the people. They are governing at the mercy of the citizens, at the mercy of the youths. We are the youths. We also pay tax. Our parents pay tax. They need to know all these things. We go to the Ministry of Finance. That's the same issues. They bought cars from Tapo Motors. Nothing was delivered. So these are the issues of procurement of goods and so forth that we are saying as young people, no, we've drawn a line in the sand. This far, no further. 2.6 million was looted through procurement corruption in the government. And we should not stay quiet as young people. All these things happen. If you go to the Ministry of Finance, we will realize that there is a transaction that was highlighted by the Auditor General. 11.7 million was transferred from the Treasury to the Ministry of Finance for the purposes of distribution to the ministries, departments, and agencies. But the records are showing that 8.4 million was received to the ministries, agencies, and departments. So there is a variance of 3.3 million that they failed to reconcile as a ministry. How on earth can a government do such things? All these monies are accumulating. We talk of NASA, which bought Chegutu land from a private company in 2003. Right now, they haven't claimed the land, 526 hectares. And now the company is saying that we can give you land that is equivalent or approximately equivalent to 1 million. But from 2003 till now, we talk of debt. If you go to Wange Culinary Company, it was given a loan of 14.6 million. That loan never recovered. That loan is going to put more burden on the citizens, but not only on the citizens, to us, the young people, to you, Dara. It's going to be a public debt. We are saying, as young people, these issues, issues of alignment of the confines of the law as far as the Public Management Finance Act is concerned. The ministry, they should all do all these things in line and within the confines of the law. But the Auditor General report, almost 170-something pages, almost 200 pages, the other reports, we realize all over it, misappropriation of funds, all over it, procurement of goods, but the goods are not coming to the final destination. You go to Zim States, they are saying that a motor vehicle disappeared at a garage. How on earth, Dara, you park your motor vehicle outside, then you just say, no, it disappeared. How on earth can a government entity say such things? And you look in the report, some of the ministries are not even responding to the Auditor General report. It shows how stubborn, how adamant they are as ministries. And we are saying, as young people, no, we should challenge this head on and make sure that we fight corruption to the core. Corruption regardless of whoever doing it. Local governments, para-state house, state-owned entities, ministries, whosoever, even the president, if you're doing corruption, let us make sure that all those who are surrounding him are not vile. We talk of Mike Chimombe, whatsoever. What are they doing, all those people? We don't know where they work. We don't know what they hold in terms of, intellectual capacity or whatsoever that can bring the money. If you talk of Elon Musk, I know why he is rich. If you talk of Strive Masiwa, I know why he is rich, because he's in a business. But if you talk of Divine, we don't know what he does. Mike Chimombe, we don't know what he does. These are just thugs who are around, the coffers of the state, looting money. Tenderpreneurship has become an issue in Zimbabwe.
But President Emmerson Mnangagwa has said that he is committed to fighting corruption and that in his tenure, he is brokering no corruption. I mean, don't you find solace in those words from our president?
Dara, they say words are sweet, but action is supreme. If you say that you're fighting corruption, you should be at the forefront of showing, that you want to fight corruption. He's surrounded by people like, Mike Chimombe, people like Chival. Everyone who has a scandal to do with corruption will realize at the end of the day that he's being sent or is in connection with the first family, with Emmerson Mnangagwa to say, so we'll realize that on the other hand, he's indicating right, but he's turning what? He's turning left. You are saying that there should not be a disconnect between practice and theory. If you are saying that they are fighting corruption, it should be seen by practice. No one is being persecuted. Henry Shashwai, was caught at the airport carrying gold. What happened to him now? To here now? You see, all these things, they show that there is no willingness as far as the executive is concerned in holding other people to account. Even, when a country is led by a thug, when a country is led by someone who believes in the extraction of country resources, who, who feed their bellies with the coffers of the state, you cannot expect anything. This country is being run by people who are looting this country for clan and sing. And as young people, we are saying, no, words are not enough. What is enough is action. What the Auditor General is saying, some of the things were said in the 2022 Auditor General report, but till today, we're speaking of the same issues. If there was the real energy and trust to say we should fight corruption, we should have been seeing this through action from Emerson Mnangagwa.
You laughed when I said the president is fighting corruption. Why?
I would say the president, right? He's the one who appoints the ministers. And the ministers, I would say they are the drivers of the ministries. I'm sure by now that even the president himself is aware that the Auditor General report is out. Maybe he's also read the Auditor General report by now. And if he is saying what he's saying, like what you alluded, he wants to fight corruption, I think by month end, we should see the president, the father of the nation, at the forefront, picking out on all those areas where corruption has happened one by one, to say, under this ministry, because he's the president, this and this happened, misappropriation of funds here and there. So if the president is indeed in alignment and in sync with what he said, we should see action being taken at the end of the day. At the end of the year, we should see results with, okay, even the president himself has called out this ministry or this minister to account on a certain thing, because at the end of the day, he's the president. So like what Munashe has said, there should be sync between practice and theory. It should not just end in those press statements on paper, him reading out on the news. We don't want corruption this, corruption that. What we want is real action. If we say we don't want corruption, the public should see, the public should know what is being done at the end of the day. Because these things have been happening since way back, like an example Munashe has given from 2003. Now we are in 2024. What has been done on that account?
So you want people to be fired?
To be what? To
be fired.
If need be, let them be fired. Because if you are a minister of a home ministry, you are serving the people, the interests of the people. Things should work. We see in the location these days, Meborane has tend to be like a ghetto in Glenora. Look at the roads. Getting city council water has been a hassle. Solar power has become the main source of power in Zimbabwe, and electricity is now backup power. So what is that minister or those same people working in under the same ministry doing when all that money is looted? So if those people don't know what they are doing in those places of power, if they are finding sleep at night, looting all those millions at the expense of the citizens who are living below the poverty datum line in Zimbabwe, with abject poverty in the country, then why do they have to remain on the same seat of power when they can't deliver? If need be, the president should fire them.
There's the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. Do you have faith in it?
No, I think it's a toothless dog. Yeah.
If it's even a dog.
Yeah, I doubt. I think it's a toothless rat. Yeah. I don't have faith in it. Why? Because corruption is all over. We see the likes of Electoral, like Munashe has mentioned, but we haven't seen anything meaningful results coming out from the Zimbabwe anti-corruption. And I have also read some newspapers saying that the Zimbabwe anti-corruption used around 33.3 million US dollars to fight corruption for the previous year, but without any single conviction. So how can I have faith in such an entity?
But they've arrested Mike Chimombe, they've arrested Moses Mpofu, they arrested Priscilla Mfumira, they even arrested Electoral. I mean, they're doing their job. They are not the ones that are supposed to convict.
Yeah, it's like Mnashi is saying, it's a catch and release. It's not something new. We have seen it being done over the years. We have seen Wicknell being arrested, over the issue of the solar, but now he's out. We have seen a lot of people being arrested and getting out. So the results, when people, when the Zimbabwe anti-corruption is said to be prosecuting someone, who should see them either in jail or returning the funds which they have been stolen.
But the ZACC, its role is to arrest and take to court, and the judges are the ones who convict or not. Now, don't you think ZACC has done its role to arrest?
I don't think it has done its role to maximum capacity, because if it has done its role in terms of arresting, I think we should have seen the whole board of ZACC also being dragged to the courts, because the Mike Chimombe and Moses Mpov didn't enter into a deal alone. In terms of the ZACC tender, and also the ministry which they were in an agreement with in terms of the goat schemes, should also be bring to court to account for all those things.
Now, I see you're wearing the Zimbabwe and Kenya flag on your hand. Talk to me. What is it about?
So, interesting thing. I went to Kenya this year, so that's why I got this. But there's something that really strikes me as far as the politics of Kenya is concerned. It's a politics that is based on issues. It's not chimbom courts that if I'm to say ED is corrupt right now, they can follow me and start doing some crazy things. In Kenya, we'll realize that the political space is a contestation of ideas, not chimbom courts, like what I said. So I think I get inspiration from how Kenya, Kenya had Mike Kibaki, Jomo Kenyatta, and these people were like dictators, Mike Kibaki. But through the progression, of the realization of the citizens that they should take agents and agents as far as demanding change is concerned, they ushered in a new constitution in 2010, and we saw, the opening up of the democratic space. But all these things were being led by the young people. Even if you take a look and introspect the recent, uprisings in Kenya, #reject the finance bill, or realize that the young people were at the forefront to demand, to say, no, you're inflicting more pain, more taxes on us, not only as young people, but as citizens at large. And the young people, the Gen Z, were at the forefront to fight, to articulate, to unpack and introspect the issues and break it down into chewable bonds to the ordinary citizen. So that is what inspires us. That is why we applaud and love Kenya that much, because the young people, they've said to us, no, we can even do it here in Zimbabwe, regardless of the complexity of, party-state conflation of Zimbabwe, regardless of, whatsoever will happen. They have said to us, in terms of the revolution, either you negotiate with the oppressor or shoot your way to freedom.
But in Zimbabwe, there's been attempts to speak out. Jacob Ngalivume, Job Sikhala were arrested when they were pushing for an anti-corruption march. They were arrested. Job Sikhala ended up serving close to 2 years in prison without any conviction. Jacob Ngalivume, a whole lot of months in prison over this attempt to show discontent against the government in Zimbabwe. Are you prepared to face this?
When you get into these things, you should say to yourself, no, I'm prepared, or whatsoever is going to come. Because when you get in such kind of revolutions, you should understand that the oppressor will try by all means to dissuade you. But what you have to do as a leader, as a citizen, is to make sure that whatsoever you're doing, you're not doing it alone. Whatsoever you're doing, you mobilize people. conscientize people, educate people, raise awareness within the people. But if needs be, if we are to be arrested because of accountability, let it be. If we are to be arrested because of our money that we are demanding, to say, where is it going? How are they using it? Let it be done. It is worth fighting for. It is a long road to freedom, and we are prepared as young people to making sure that whatsoever comes into our way, we will conquer, we will triumph as a people.
Passionate. I understand you're still studying for your degree, and someone would want to say, why don't you concentrate on your studies for now, and make sure that you attain your degree first before you start going around asking the Auditor General why they delayed in having the report and demanding accountability from the president.
Okay, I would say to begin with, before I'm a student, I'm a citizen. Even if I was 5 years old and not being able to understand the complexities of the Auditor General report, my parents would have been affected first. So when we are doing these things, I'm not doing it for me only, like Masiwa had said. This is not my fight alone. This is not our fight alone, but this is the fight of Zimbabwe. So what I'm doing is part of what I understand and get from my degree as well, because it would be useless for me just to go and learn about that degree. We talk about political science, the issues of comparative politics, the issues of international relations, the issues of diplomacy, the issues of democracy, where it emanates from what it means to be in a democratic nation. It all emanates from this degree. So what I'm doing now is just simply channeling what I am learning and what I'm understanding to a good cause, and even widening it beyond what I'm learning at school.
Some would argue that you have no real interest in these issues around the Auditor General's report. In fact, you are part of a political system from the opposition that just wants to cause trouble and chaos for the ruling elites.
Okay. Thank you for saying the opposition. I would like to ask maybe the citizens of Zimbabwe at large, what do you understand by the word opposition? When we say, have you, like what I've realized myself in the era that we are in Zimbabwe, when someone just hear the word change, they don't understand it in the context of what is change? What do we mean by change? But they attach it to certain individuals to say, even if the same people are talking good things or bad things, they attach it to somebody to the extent that they don't even want to understand what those people are trying to say about change. When we say change, what do we mean by change? When we say opposition, what do we mean? Opposition, people understand it as people in general, I might quote. But personally, I think when we say opposition, we are saying that, okay, first thing, point A, what is being opposed? Point B, what is being proposed? That is what we are saying. So I don't buy the idea that my interest is just because maybe some people would say, this group of young people, they are aligned to a certain opposition party. How does corruption has to do with an opposition party or change?
Are you not aligned to opposition political party? Are you not aligned to the CCC and you would oppose anything that the ruling party does, even if it doesn't really amount to issues that should concern you?
Okay. So the fact that which political party or entity I'm aligned to is not the question here. The question here is, am I opposing something because a particular person has said it? We are not here opposing the government because it's the government of the ruling party. No. We are here opposing corruption, misappropriation of funds, the looting of resources. Even if it was the opposition in government, CCC, MDC, whatsoever, if it was doing the same thing, I believe we would still be here today to say, okay, so where did the money go? Why is there misappropriation of funds? Why is there corruption? This is not a battle between political parties. This is a battle of public resources, where they are going, what they are used to, and what we are doing as Zimbabwe, as a people. Because when you're saying the Ministry of Finance, we don't care which person from which political party is sitting on the chair of leadership of that same ministry, because the ministry is for Zimbabwe. We don't run this country or the ministry like it's a family business. This is Zimbabwe. When you come here and say the young people, if you have listened well when we started, we didn't say the young people from CCC, from MDC, from Zanu PF, what? We are the young people of Zimbabwe. When you're saying the young people let's all be informed. Let's all hold our hands together and call all these perpetrators of corruption to accountability. We are not putting any political party in question. But it comes now when someone thinks we are the opposition or we are the other party, I don't know, when we say the government, because at this moment, the government is being ruled by the Zanu PF political party. It's not a secret. So that is when the name is coming into question as far as this Auditor General report is concerned, as we're discussing today. It's about corruption. It's not about any political party. Whoever any person is, from MDC, from TPC, from the government itself, we are saying that whoever you are, from wherever you are coming from, if you are participating in this corruption, we will call you into accountability.
Amazing. Let's talk about the issues around access to education, access to health, and access to opportunities as young people. There's been a concern that most of the times, after you attain degrees from the institutions of higher learning, if there is still any higher learning that's happening there, but there's been concern that after all that, you don't get jobs. You are reduced to street vendors. And government has said, or those in power have said that this is because of sanctions, this is because of the cost of doing business in Zimbabwe, which is around sanctions. With the report that has come from the Auditor General showing you where millions of money are disappearing, do you still buy that debate?
I never bought it from the word go. And also I'm not buying it now. Why? Because we have seen, because the Auditor General report of 2023, it is not the first and definitely not the last. There have been so many reports each and every year. We see a lot of reports, and each and every year we see a lot of corruption happening. We see a lot of misappropriation of funds happening in various ministries. So the fact that there is a very wide inequality gap in Zimbabwe between those who are politically connected and the political elite and those of us who are the masses, the general masses of the people, is not anyhow linked to the sanctions, but it is definitely linked to the government's inability to put their priorities in order. That is number one. And number two, it is also the vast corruption which is across all the ministries and departments of government. So I think Zimbabwe definitely has got enough and adequate resources to make sure that is each and every youth has access to education and access to healthcare. But the fact is there is lack of will on the side of the government to make sure that is implemented.
Now, this government led by President Emerson Mutsvangwa is a government of the people, elected by the people and put in office by the people. And you're telling me that, as we have this conversation, that there have been countless reports from the Auditor General reflecting high levels of corruption. Why do you keep or continuously electing a government that you feel is corrupt every other 5 years and then complain about it?
So, you see, in our society, in a political society, there is a democracy and competitive authoritarian regime where elections are done as a ritual and there is naked repression of the people. And Zimbabwe is such a country, Zimbabwe is such an environment where elections are not done for the electorate, but the elections are done for the selectorate, which means, the army, which means those in the higher echelons of power, those in the higher echelons of the economic divide, to say that, the Taguires and so forth, who controls the means of the economy. So elections in Zimbabwe are not about the people. And we should fight as always the people to make sure that there is democracy in Zimbabwe. to make sure that if people vote for you, that the results should be announced as they are. Why can't we do what happened in South Africa, whereby we're having a larger billboard showing live results? Here in Zimbabwe, the chair of the commission prays, announces the results. She does everything in 5 minutes. Everything is done. There is, as we are speaking right now, if you go to the website of ZACC, there is no breakdown of election results to say that Zanu PF got this in this particular area, the other parties got this in this particular area. Nothing has been done. The delivery of ballot papers, everyone written, reports saying that the elections fell short of the confines of the law as far as elections are concerned. SADC wrote, EU wrote, AU wrote. It's known all of. So there is an issue of legitimacy, and legitimacy data is very, very much important, because legitimacy goes to the social contract. The social contract, which is the foundation of any nation. Without the social contract, everything collapses. We are talking of the ZiG. The ZiG requires confidence. Confidence comes from the confidence in the electoral processes. If there is no confidence there, we cannot be talking of economic emancipation. We cannot, by any means, try to dichotomize the two, politics and economics. That's why others, they call it the political economy, because the two are inextricably linked, and we need to make sure that we correct the politics. So Dara, talking of elections, talking of a government of the people. Government of the people. Right now, as we are speaking, the maize production and the maize harvest in Zimbabwe compared to the previous season fell down by 74.2% Dara, as we are speaking. We need 2.2 million hectares of maize in Zimbabwe for us to sustain for a year. But here in Zimbabwe, we produced less than 633,000 hectares. And, if you're a government of the people, curb corruption, we're having drought, cushion in as the people, as a government of the people. But if you are having all these shortfalls, and nothing is really being done, money is given to a certain corner of the people to say, no, we have Wicknell there, we have the first family there, we have Zanu PF, those people running around on Twitter or being given mafu for at least those in the entrance of power are getting more and more. The cars that they buy, the luxury houses and so forth. They're using the taxpayers.
I'm just jealous that you also you didn't get a car from Wicknell. You don't have a luxury house. Are you jealous? Is this why you are fighting those who have?
Looking at me, I'm a man. I don't need to be given hands out, by someone to say, no, for you, dance like my munya gives me a wonder feet and arc and so forth. I don't need that. I went to school. I read my books, it's subjective, but, I read my books and I understand them. I have I'm tech savvy. I have other things that I can be able to do using the education that I acquired from the university. I need opportunities to making sure that I provide for the family, to make sure that I provide for myself, to make sure that we lead to the betterment of this country. So it's not about me getting some accolades or whatsoever. It's about me getting opportunities so that I extricate myself from the jaws of poverty. I extricate the country at large from the jaws of poverty. About, more than 50% of people in Zimbabwe are living far, far below the poverty datum line. And, it's a mess to talk about poverty. If you go to the ghetto, if you go to Chitungisa, they've never seen water for years. Yeah. But you're saying that it's a government for the people. No, let us be honest. A government of the people prioritizes, land, prioritizes the issue of food, prioritizes electricity, prioritizes education, because education, data creates the future. Education creates the future. For us to have the future, should have education, people who can get into government. Right now, the government is full of thugs. That's why it's being run by this. People do not even understand without the intellectual prowess to making sure that we have effective and efficient system within ministries. So for us to move forward, these things, they have to be corrected by any means necessary and even unnecessary. but you should make sure that these things are realized at the end of it.
Passion, let's talk about, you guys sit down to write a letter. But you elected members of parliament who are supposed to ask for these things. And at the moment we have people who some have asked to step out of parliament because some believe that parliament is no longer serving purpose. But these MPs have said no, they want to occupy what they call zones of autonomy. Why did you feel that it was necessary for you to step in when you have these elected officials who are occupying zones of autonomy to keep the executive accountable?
Okay, so I believed as young people, even though we are not in the parliament, one doesn't need a political position or a position to become a leader. As a responsible and a participant citizen of Zimbabwe, the Auditor General report is not for the parliament itself or for the MPs themselves or even for the councillors, it's for the whole Zimbabweans. So if an MP couldn't do it, if a councillor couldn't do it, if a minister himself couldn't do it, or if the president himself couldn't ask for it, even if it was already due, we just took the responsibility as young people because we also needed to know what was in the Auditor General report. We were also concerned to say, okay, it's due as per the Constitution in Section 309 and in the Audit Office Act itself, Section 10, Chapter 22.18. So where is it? Then we just took it upon ourselves and say, okay, it's fine. Let us also write a letter to the Office of the OAG and say, where is the Auditor General report? Because the dates are already due.
Yeah. So someone would argue, I mean, as has been argued in the past, that you were saying that you are looking for donor funds, you're funded. I mean, what would be your pushback to that?
My pushback is that if you see someone pushing that point a lot, it's because they are reflecting to what they do or what they are used to believing. If you are pushing for change, if you are pushing for development, if you are pushing for a good cause, then someone is sponsoring you. Those people who say that, those are the people who act not because they want to, they act because there are resources backing them. You see, so they think when everyone does that, they are doing the same things as they do. To me, that's my answer to say if someone is doing something or if they are used to do something because someone is giving them a reimbursement or a token of appreciation or something, then they have the energy and the zeal to do so. That was not our case. We are doing it out of our own will. We are doing it because we are concerned citizen. We are doing it because we wanted to know where the resources are going. And as young people, as you have already said, we are in tertiary institution, myself to be particular. You see, at the end of every year, the president himself has a plan to keep about 6,000 students at the University of Zimbabwe, but there is no plan to create opportunities for those 6,000 people. I don't really think they really also sit down to say, okay, we have, let's say, 15,000 students graduating every year from various institutions. Do they even publish to say, because the graduation, they come, it's announced. We know it's coming, even if I'm not graduating. Since I was a first-year student, I would know the president is coming on such a day. Students are being kept. It's nice, it's wonderful. But what is being done to improve the lives of those graduates? Because they say Vision 2030, the youth are the future of the country. Where is the future coming in? We are not seeing like clear or tangible ways or means to say, okay, this is being prepared for us.
You don't feel like you're the future of this country?
I feel like I'm the future of this country because I'm here today trying to push for accountability for my generation and the generation to come. What more better future can come before this or more than what we are doing to push for accountability, to push for the accountability of our funds, to say, okay, next year, in the years to come, at least the situation in Zimbabwe must improve.
Some people have been disappeared for issues like this in this country.
Yes.
And are you not afraid?
What happens is, when you care yourself and say to yourself, I'm not stepping up to be a leader of my generation and to be part of the progressives who push for social change within the society. There are three places which you should be prepared for. Number one is the jail. Number 2, it is the mortuary. And number 3 is the hospital. So those are the 3 places which one should prepare themselves, especially when you are dealing with, authoritarian militarist regimes like ours in Zimbabwe.
But
so
this is not an authoritarian military regime, is it? Who is the
it is. It is. Who is the vice president?
A retired soldier.
There are various instances that prove maybe militarism is coming into play in our government. Yeah. I would say, for example, if people need to do a rally or to do a peaceful demonstration, all of those things that I'm mentioning are enshrined in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Are you aware that we go to the police station not to seek permission to go for a rally or to demonstrate, but to seek for their protection, to say you should, because the police are for the people. They are supposed to be on the forefront, making sure that everything is done peacefully and in a rightful way. But instead, in this current Zimbabwe, we see us against the police. It's very disturbing, shocking to say which is happening here. You also mentioned that, you see, when people try to do that, we have accounts of people being abducted, other people being missing. We can talk the likes of Takudzwa. We know his work and what he has been doing over the years. He's been abducted for reasons we know and some we don't know. Maybe they know best why they abducted him. And those perpetrators, they are not even in jail or incarcerated until today. So what would be your comment? Okay, what would be a normal comment to such a scenario whereby you have gone to the police station, you're asking for police clearance, not permission, to say, okay, we want to do this on a particular day. We want the police to protect us because the police, they are the law enforcers and their duty is to protect us, the citizens, the people. But at the end of the day, you see, upon that day, you see us against the police or us against the black boots. Those ones, they don't even negotiate. They just come and beat people. We now see this trend of the day, that woman who had a fracture of her leg, going to she's jailed, she has a fracture, and her child even died. Who did that? And what is the comment to that? Is it the way things should be done in the country? And it speaks to a lot of reasons why we are even still in the same situation, or not so many people coming forward to talk about these things, not because they don't care, but they've learned to accept that they are in abject poverty. They've learned to accept that it is what it is. And the only leap of hope that they have is waiting for Jesus Christ and holding on to their lives until they die and just leave everything to God.
I saw you wanted to come in when I was talking about the MPs. Maybe you can just, don't you have faith in your legislators that they would have been able to demand this and hold the executive to account?
So, after the elections, citizens were calling for the mass resignation of MPs and others they chose to be in parliament. And we, as citizens, we said, it's your choice. We were in parliament. Okay, it's fine, you're in parliament, but deep down, we needed you to resign. You did not resign, but now you're in parliament. Hold the government to account, because that is the role of the parliament. The parliament is 4 roles that it should be. Number 1, representation. Number 2, legislative role. Number 3, oversight. Number 4, appropriation. All these 4 functions are not being realized in that parliament. MPs, you'll be sleeping. I was laughing this other day when the Auditor General report was being presented. A certain chair of a committee was sleeping like this dark. But you're saying you're in parliament. You should be.
Are you afraid of naming this certain chair?
I'm not afraid of naming. I'm not afraid of naming.
Let's have the names.
I'm not afraid of naming anyone there.
Let's have them.
The chair.
I don't want
that.
The point that you're addressing. I always want to be very clear on these issues. When people come on this platform, they're not telling me so that I know. Right? I am not asking you questions from a vacuum. I know. I am asking you questions and talking to you so that the people out there who don't know. So that the people out there who are going to be voting for that certain chair that you don't want to talk about must know the name, so that when the ballot comes, they will be able to punish that person for sleeping on duty. So it is if you come here, you've got to be prepared to name names. So who is that chair?
Thank you very much, Dara, for that. You know, in Parliament, the role of the Parliament, like what I said, is to hold the government to account. And if a certain chair who is Comrade Wende sleeping in Parliament, we expect these people to be in Parliament making sure that they hold the government to account. It might not be an everyday routine, but when you do it once, the citizens will capture that and will use that in the future to say, no, we're elected in Parliament to do these 4 roles. What have you done so far? No one was speaking out against the Auditor General report. We saw now them coming on Twitter saying this and that. But we're saying you're supposed to take the initiative to making sure that you face these things head on, because that is your primary disposition, your primary preoccupation as a parliament to do all those things. But we as citizens, we understand that these things happen. That's why we've taken up the role to say that we as the young people, as the Gen Z, as the youths, let us gather ourselves, mobilize ourselves, recruit, educate, and conscientize to making sure that we create a broader and a larger, a huge strategy towards facing corruption, towards making sure that everything that is done in this country is under scrutiny by the young people. And we have the capacity, the intellectual capacity, the mass of the physical capacity, the metaphysical, we have all those to making sure that we complete our task and triumph as a people.
But you were talking about this being a military state, and knowing that this is a military state,
Yes.
are you not afraid of the gun?
We are people. We are people. We are all afraid sometimes. But in this regard, when everyone else now is scared, we know that people power is more stronger than the people in power. So as a young people, because this is not something which is I am doing, is Tatenda alone, or something that we are doing, the 3 of us. No, this is a program of the young people. This is the program of all people. It's something which is, which is faceless, something which is partless. It goes beyond political parties. We know that it's a military state which is being ruled by a political party, of which is Zanu PF. But when we come to accountability issues, we go beyond parties. We go beyond all those groupings. So it's something which is bigger than parties, where we say no. Those same people, those same young people who are in Zanu PF, there's young people who are in Zanu PF, but they are still paying taxes. You are not exempted from paying tax when you buy sugar. You are not exempted from paying tax when you buy something because of your political party. So to say that I'm afraid, no, I think I'm pretty much okay, because we are pretty much okay as a young generation. We are youth voice. We are youth voice. I'm not alone. So that's what makes me strong.
Cowards die many times.
Yes.
Dara, in terms of fear, there is a word that I love so much called courage. And as young people, what courage means is the ability to overcome fear. When you do these things, sometimes you'll be afraid, getting pressure from family, getting pressure from so many people. But that ability to overcome that fear is what is important and essential as far as this kind of work is concerned. And that is the one that we have as young people, the courage, the power and the ability to overcome fear.
Amazing. I want to thank you very much, comrades, and for coming through to the Free Talk in partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. And these are our partners here on Heart and Soul TV and radio. And myself, personally, as Blessed Mhlanga, Dara B, we believe that people should be heard. A nation that does not talk to itself is doomed to fail. And strongly believe that creating this platform, for me, it's God-given. It's a calling from God to be able to create this platform, to be able to water it, and to be able to have these incisive debates. But for our partners and for Heart and Soul, our motto is come as you are and enjoy free speech on this platform so that we can begin to build our nation together, so that we find solutions We don't have to lose blood on the street, to see people die, so that we can correct what is wrong within our nation. The superiority of ideas should govern us in a more just and equitable manner. And for justice to prevail, we must stop thieving. Now, colleagues, I'll give you each just under 2 minutes, your closing remarks. If there's something that I didn't ask you that you feel you need to talk about, this is your opportunity to look the people of Zimbabwe in the eye. I'll start from you, going around, and just under 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dara, for the opportunity. My message is to the young people, but not limited to them. It also goes beyond to all the citizens, to say to all the young people in Zimbabwe that let's come on board and follow our money and stick and, ask for accountability from our government, ask for accountability from those members of parliament, from our council, from our local authorities, to make sure that we improve our lives. Because accountability, it gives us assurance as a young people of a better future. If we know that our resources are being well managed today, we know that our future is secure. But if they are not well managed today, we know that we are a generation which is doomed and we shall forever live under the armpits of poverty. So I say to the young people, let's come together, let's raise awareness, let's talk to our friends, to where we are, to our soccer matches, to our parties, to our different schools, different jobs. Let's talk about accountability. Let's start to have that conversation on different platforms, which is on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Let's come together and create that conversation. So I thank you very much for having me today, and I also would like to say follow our page, which is the Zimbabwean Youth on Twitter, which is Youth ZW, so that you can continue to have more information regarding accountability work and regarding the Auditor General report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dara, for the opportunity to be at this fantastic space whereby there is diversity of views. And to the citizens of Zimbabwe, especially Gen Z, the young people, Franz Fanon in the book Wretched of the Earth, he writes that each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it. It is our generational mission. It is our existential mandate and obligation as the young people to hold the government to account, but not as Mnashe Masiwa as a person, not as you alone, but as a collective. Because Ernesto Che Guevara says that there are no liberators. I am not a liberator myself. People liberate themselves.
Amazing. Passionate?
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to give my final message, given an example from the Bible. It's just a book. I would say, Peter said to Jesus, Christ, are you walking on water? And he said, yes. Then he said, can I come? In that context, he walked first, but when he saw the winds that was coming, he shifted his focus from looking at Jesus and started to think about so many reasons why the wind and how can a normal human being walk on top of water, and he started to sink. So my point is, perception is what can kill us as a people. I know some of us fear, I know it's hard, I know it's not a one-day thing to achieve the goal of 100% accountability in Zimbabwe. But it's high time we shift our perceptions from many reasons why we cannot do it, from many reasons why it has failed in the past, from many reasons why some of us can die or can get hurt or abducted in the street. But shift our perception to look at the possibilities that are at hand, to say that if Kenya did it, if another nation did it, if even the president himself and the people from that era managed as a young people to transition Zimbabwe from the white settlers who were abusing Zimbabwe, who were governing this country out of tyranny, and made it to a new Zimbabwe. As this generation of today, we can also do it. We just need to shift our perception from why we cannot do it to look at the possibilities that are there to why we can also do it. Thank you. Amazing.
Thank you very much for this amazing discussion that I've had, and it's a beautiful space to sit around Gen Z and feel old. we believe strongly, as I've said and that I'll continue to say, we believe strongly that those in power, if they're listening, and we know they listen and we know they watch, it's time that they save the interest of those who elected them into office. It's time they listen to the young people. The Vision 2030 is not for them. They have reached the afternoons of their life. They are in the evenings of their life. They might not be there in 2030. What they are creating and what they are doing in Vision 2030 is to create for young people an opportunity to govern and take this nation forward as they once did during their prime time. It is therefore important on them, on you, our leaders in Zimbabwe, to listen to what the young people are saying. They don't have to toy or run in the streets before you can hear them. What happened in Kenya is very, very unfortunate. 25 people died, shot, some in the head, over a finance bill that was later, revoked. We don't have to go there. This is our nation. We are human beings. The difference between animals and human beings is that we have an opportunity to reason. We don't use fangs and teeth to make points. This will always be the Free Talk. And I, your host as usual, Dara B. This is the home for debate. This is the platform to exchange views. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on our YouTube page so that you keep us going. It is your subscriptions, it is your viewership, it is you sharing our content that makes us a better station. It won't cost you anything just to subscribe. Press that subscribe button right now. Thank you. And please continue supporting us. And this is the Free Talk. Until next time, I'm Dara B.
Mutengo wa kujenga sai